Welcome to Empowered Within, a soul-quenching, transformational podcast that will set your soul on fire through candid and inspiring conversations. Leading experts, celebrities, healers, and I share our journeys of how we've overcome challenges to living an empowered life from within. I'm your host, Jennifer Pilates. Welcome to another episode of Empowered Within. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to introduce you to our guest today. Shannon Kaiser is in the house. She is the best-selling author of 5 books on the psychology of happiness and fulfillment, including the #1 bestsellers, The Self-Love Expert, Adventures for Your Soul, and Joy Seeker, and the forthcoming Oracle deck, Unshakable Inner Peace, coming this November. As an international life coach, speaker, and retreat leader, Shannon helps people trust and believe in themselves so they can live their highest potential. Shannon has been named a top 100 women to watch in wellness by Mind Body Green and your go-to happiness booster by Health Magazine. Shannon has also been recognized as a must-follow Instagram account for inspiration by the Entrepreneur Magazine and a top Facebook account for daily motivation by Mind Body Green. Welcome, Shannon. I'm so honored to have you on our show today.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. So Shannon, I wanted to dive right in. There's so much that I feel we have in common. And one of those is a bit of our transformation story. I know that yours starts from corporate burnout and, you know, having gone through so many other depressions and eatings and fear and anxieties to now all of a sudden you're an amazing best-selling author multiple times over, mentor and coach. Can you share a bit of that transformational story?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to when we kind of go inward and trust ourselves from within. So it's really a transformational journey. As you said, I haven't always been doing this work today, but today I am so fulfilled. I feel I'm living my purpose as a writer, as a coach and speaker. But several years ago, I was in a completely different career. I was working in advertising, living in Chicago, climbing the corporate ladder. And it looked like I had it all. I was, doing photo shoots with celebrities and working on big brands, flying around internationally on my accounts. But I would cry myself to sleep every night. I actually thought that was what it meant to be human. I just assumed everyone cried themselves to sleep. I just was in such a place where that was just my normal. And I was in a very toxic relationship with a man who wanted to marry me. I was totally burnt out from corporate. Silently, I was suffering from eating disorders and drug addiction. And it wasn't until I went to the doctor, when the doctor diagnosed me with clinical depression, that it was a giant turning point for me, because I went home that night and cried on the bathroom floor like so many nights before. But I said, there's got to be a better way. And my inner voice said, Shannon, follow your heart. And that for me, we hear this, we see it plastered on memes. And at that point, when people were talking about happiness, it was such a foreign language for me. But when I heard it this time, something in me clicked and I made it my life mission to follow my heart. And every day since then, in 2009, October 9th, I have been following my heart. And it has led to the most profound life of authenticity, of joy, of doing work that feels mission-driven. And I truly feel that we all have something within us that wants to be birthed into the world. And I've come to realize that the majority of my depression and corporate burnout and addictions was tied to me not being true to myself. I didn't even ask myself who you are, but it was that journey that led me to everything I do today.
It's such an amazing story, Shannon. There's so many of us like you, like me out there. We just thought that's what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to be part of the grind and you're supposed to be in the corporate world and get married and da-da-da-da. And it's so unfulfilling for some of us that we learn, that it isn't following our passion and our drive. What is one of your biggest aha moments through your spiritual transformational journey that you've had?
It's interesting because I share that transformational pivotal moment, but since then I've had multiple more pivotal moments. And one of the biggest lessons, and I often share, is we learn the way on the way. And every point of us, and this is a famous quote, it's not mine, but every kind of chance we get into every new level of you is going to require a next level of you. And so I find that there have been pivotal moments every few years. And so the biggest transformation and what I'm really understanding, especially with what we're all living through now and what we've experienced last year, is that we all have seasons to our soul. And this is a radical shift for me because I was like, okay, I had this awakening. Now I'm living my mission. This is wonderful. But, it isn't until like just last year when I was on right before COVID hit and everything, I was on book tour for my book that's all about joy, Joy Seeker. And as I was on book tour, I was traveling the country, but I was having anxiety attacks. And this anxious, overwhelming force would take me down when I got back to the hotel rooms, and it was debilitating. I was like, this is so different. I'm here teaching about happiness, but then there's always a next wave. And what it really taught me is my whole next book that I learned to write as I was going through that is about inner peace. And so what I possibly feel the greatest lesson is that we often learn through the contrast. We wouldn't truly know what happiness is if we didn't go through depression. We wouldn't know what peace is if we didn't have those anxious moments. And so whatever we're going through, and now when I am in whatever phase it is, I look at it as an opportunity for great, profound growth. And that's been a radical, beautiful shift for me.
I agree with you. It's light through the darkness. And I like to believe there is always a lesson in the blessing. There's always something there for us to learn and to grow through. I'm so excited that you brought up Joy Seeker. When you and I decided that we were going to do this interview, I have all of your books in your Oracle decks. And yes. You've been a mentor of mine for years. And I was guided by the universe to go over it. So I went over and I picked out Joy Seeker. I was guided to open up a passage. And if I have your permission, I would love to share it with our listeners. Okay.
Yes,
so where I was guided to read, it says, "Welcome, Joy Seeker. There is an enormous amount of pressure, fear, and frustration on the planet right now. People feel overwhelmed and hopeless. We are fatigued, emotionally drained, and concerned for the well-being of the planet, our loved ones, and ourselves. Fear, judgment, and a lack of faith are at an all-time high, and they seem to be dictating our lives. For many of us, we've lost the capacity to find our joy and see any real magic in being alive." I find no coincidence that is where I was guided to open up, given the state of our lives this last year. Shannon, I'm wondering, what advice can you give all of us to bring joy back into living again? Because this has been such a transformational time on a humanitarian level, on a global level.
Absolutely. And I find that it is giving us an opportunity to really recalibrate and go inward, because so many of us have not been able to go outward, and even in my own experience, I'm a world traveler. I write all my books from different places. And even that's a big part of the Joy Seeker experience, following your biggest dream. And by not traveling this past year, I've had an opportunity to go even deeper inside and really, truly discover what matters most. And I think this is a grand opportunity for all of us. And what we are learning, and really as a collective, and as we move forward into this kind of next evolution for all of us, it's really about the things that we kind of took for granted before. And I find that joy is in the moments. It's not in chasing some big dream. And I think I had it backwards before, and a lot of us do, where it's that next achievement, that next goal weight we hit, the soulmate we finally, the getting out of debt. We look at joy almost as parallel to happiness. And happiness is actually fleeting. It's a moment by moment thing that can come and go. Whereas joy is a state of being. We allow it. We are joy. Just think of children being birthed out into the world. They're just like curious about life, or puppies or anything that has just been born. It's just like in this pure, pleasant state of experiencing life from a place of gratitude and joy. So when we want to tap into joy, what we have to do is stop trying to reach joy and simply allow it. By one of the best ways is to start by being grateful for what is and appreciating what matters. And in that book, I'm so glad you read that, because I started that passage there where I realized we have gotten so disconnected from joy, but really replace the word joy with true self, because our true self is joy. And we've gotten so far disconnected from our true self just because the world has been worlding and we've been trying so hard to fit into it. One of the biggest shifts for me has been to disconnect from the world, as far as I'm no longer going to try to fit. Instead, I'm going to be who I really am and let the world adjust. And I find that that's the truest expression of joy.
I couldn't agree with you more. And there was another statement that you made, and I love how we're just vibing and the universe is just flowing for us today. Mm-hmm. You wrote a statement that said, I'm not a fit into a box kind of girl. And I know I personally 100% resonate with that, and I'm sure tons of our listeners do as well. I'm wondering, what was the feeling in your heart that brought you to that statement, that brought that statement to life for you?
Well, it's interesting because for me, I looked at my whole life. And when I was younger, we moved around a lot, and I was bullied because I was the new girl, and then I would eat my feelings. And at age 9, I had eating disorders and self-hate. And that cycled through for many decades. So it was really about a lack of self-love. And I realized I was always trying to fit in. And so if I was in situations, I was trying to be what other people wanted me to be. It was just this constant losing myself. And so I got to a place in once I stepped into this career, and between each book, I tend to write about what it is I truly want to learn. And then I dive into the book and it becomes this beautiful process. And then it works. I found self-love. I found joy. I found peace. But in this particular zone, really, we try so hard to be what others want when we don't really ask ourselves, well, who am I really? What is it that really brings me joy? And going back to our childhood and thinking about a time where we really truly are really connected to your best self. You know, in my coaching practice, this is one of the first questions. If we're looking to find who we are, what does bring us joy? Because a lot of times you ask and people say, I don't know, there's too many people suffering out there. How dare I go after my joy? Or who am I to show up when, you know, all these people need me? But really, it's who am I not? Because what I have found is when you start to activate your own joy, which is really a self-love practice, you're not only lifting up yourself, but you're lifting up all those around you. And that's one less person hurting on the planet. That's one less person in pain. So really, I look at it as a service. We're being of service to the world by being in our light, by being in our joy. And so you can return to your childhood moment. And, you know, I would sit in nature and write poems. I would sit with my dog at the time, my best friend as a little girl. And it's interesting because I steered away from that and went in the corporate route. So when I was diagnosed with depression in corporate, the first thing I asked myself is, well, what did you love to do as a child? And I was like, wow, I sat in nature and wrote poems. Well, maybe I can start writing again and spend more time in nature. And slowly but surely, I started piecing myself back together.
You have me in tears right now, Shannon. You just described my life. There's the same thing, the corporate ladder, climbing it. You literally just flashed me back. And I have journal after journal of poetry and sitting by the ocean. And
I love that.
Recently, this last year, you know, with everything going on, that's what I've been brought back to, which is what made me happy. The painting, the writing, helping others tell their story, and thus the podcast was born as well. I really want our listeners to know we're never alone on our journey. There are times when it feels that way because the universe is trying to filter out what no longer fits for us. We're all one, and we're all a ripple effect to the other. I'm wondering, Shannon,
Absolutely.
For those out there, and so many, especially after what we've been through this past year, everyone is finding themselves on a different journey, and a lot are finding themselves on a spiritual journey. What piece of advice you could give to someone who might just be beckoning on their journey?
Oh, yes. It's such a beautiful thing. And well, from a collective level, we have moved away from the harsher Piscean age, whether you're into astrology or woo spiritual stuff. Like, we have literally just left what is considered Pisces age, and we are moving into the age of Aquarius. And with that, what that really represents, whether you call it the age of Aquarius, I like to call it the age of intuition, because we are stepping into, and maybe you see in your own life how your intuition is starting to guide you more, and you're starting to listen. And this in itself is happening across the whole planet, where we're starting to wake up more to our own power, the potential, to the beautiful power of Gaia, Mother Earth, and the spiritual aspects and the non-physical. So it's happening for everyone, but it's happening on a different way. And what I find is we have multiple spiritual awakenings throughout our whole entire life, because ultimately we are here for personal expansion. I really truly believe our life purpose is to expand purposely and focused with intention. So every time we get to a place where we're asking, is there more? Or I don't relate to what I have been experienced, what we can first recognize is we have grown into the person we set out to be, and our current reality, the life we build, whether it's the relationship that you're in or the career that you've chosen, all of a sudden it no longer fits because you are essentially a caterpillar that is ready to birth into, whether it's, you call it the butterfly or the rising phoenix. You've grown so much that that incubator can no longer hold you. So give yourself permission to expand. And one of the things I find that comes to us most in this time is new teachers, whether it's coaches, psychics, podcasts, books that fall off the shelf. Follow through on that, because that is really the universe guiding you, your higher self. That's, as you said, we're all one. So there's an energetic field that helps support your growth. So lean into it, trust it. And I also find journaling is a beautiful way. And it doesn't have to look like a Dear Diary. It can just be like, today this happened. I'm feeling this way. I'm noticing these synchronicities. I'm looking forward to this. And these are ways that you can open up more, because what we're really doing on a core level is dropping from our head into our heart and living with our true essence, which is the spirit and love within us.
So beautiful. It is so true. And I'm wondering, for those that, like you said, we all have different journeys and different transformations and different awakenings throughout our lives. Like you've mentioned, you come into different mentors and coaches and psychics and astrologers. Are there any poignant mentors that you can share that maybe our listeners could go, that I may resonate with that person?
Oh, I think that's such a beautiful question. I always ask this question too on my journey. I was like, who's your mentor? Because I appreciate you. And what I have learned through my journey is my mentors' I didn't relate to. And so I've also kind of gotten to a place where I realize we all have to be guided in our own way. But if you read any of my books, I always credit or dedicate one of my books to a mentor. So there are people that I'm really resonating with that are really along with the soul journey, but at different places in my life, I've had mentors. And you get to a place where sometimes you will outgrow your mentor. And that's, even with my coaching practice, I'll work with people for a couple years and I mentor them, and then they go fly. And I'm so happy to see them spread their wings and find whoever's best for them next, because that's what life's about. There's lots of people I really resonate with. Well, it changes. I'm not going to put any names out there right now, but if you are on my blog, I always credit people. Martha Beck's a really good, she blends the spirituality and the psychology. So right now I've been writing a lot about her because she's talking about integrity. I'm also into spiritual mentors. Summer Bacon and Dr. Peebles are huge influences, and I dedicated Joy Seeker to them as well.
I love that. In your books, you share so much. There isn't anything that you don't share. You are such an authentic and vulnerable soul, and a blessing to all of us that can find you, that are drawn to you, that are guided to you, because you really do help so many to be able to open and expand. There's something else that I've been dying to ask you. I found it through your Instagram account. You have a quiz that you can go and take to basically find out about yourself. I did that quiz last summer, and it was the most eye-opening moment that I've had in years. And I'm wondering, did you put that all together? It was so detailed. It was like you called me and you just said, here you go, Jen. This is you. Open up, enjoy it, embrace it, because you've been playing small. And I was like, wow, thank you, Shannon. Okay, boom, up on the bulletin board.
Yes. Oh, my heart is so full, because I set out last year to really I went through yet another spiritual awakening last year towards the beginning. And I just really stepped up to, how can I serve more? How can I be of service? And how can I offer more based on my skills and what I know? So I basically set out to write this quiz, and I looked at a lot of other quizzes online because they're fun to take, right? And I noticed something with all the quizzes that I was taking, that they were just very superficial, shallow, and really they just wanted your email, or they just were trying to sell something. I was like, okay, so I'm not going to do that. What I want to do is, if somebody cannot afford my coaching, I want to give them such profound value that they literally can either have an awakening or an aha moment, or it sets them on a path, because my ultimate purpose is to help you live your purpose. I want everyone to awaken to their true self, because I know how good it feels. And it doesn't matter how they do it. So I created that quiz, and it was very strategic for me, because I do a lot of psychology, spirituality, and bring in kind of mental health. And so based on my own experience and being a life coach for over a decade, I created that quiz with the archetype style in mind, and the archetypes, what Carl Jung, Carolyn Myss, a lot of people, I kind of formed that. But then I looked at, we all fall into certain categories. And based on that, based on the key questions you ask, like, what do I need in my life that I'm not currently getting? Or what is it that I really want for my life? Where do I see myself? And you ask these questions. And then my ultimate goal was to basically give resources. So it's like not just, okay, here's your answer, thanks, goodbye, but to keep you going. So there's journal questions, there's videos, because everyone learns different too, so I was like, oh, maybe they'll want the video, or you can have a meditation. So I'm so glad to hear it found value for you, because that's my ultimate. I love that I could provide value and help you, because look, here we are together today talking.
Absolutely. It was such a beacon of light at the and even in it. And I had been told by various people, you're a beacon of light, you've got to get your word out there. And I was like, yeah. And then it's always that one moment. And that's what I pulled out. I was the leading luminary. It even said in it that, like, you're a beacon of light. It was just like you saying those words. Finally, the beacon of light was actually turned on. And I got it.
Yes.
And I literally, it was, and I have this written down. So this was on July 8th of 2020. Within 1 week, I decided, okay, the podcast is coming, and I did the trailer. And then the universe said, okay, we're glad we got you there. However, we have a little shift for you. And at the time, I've been caretaking for my granddad. So my life shifted a moment and things got put on hold. But it was like I was brought back to life for a moment that I hadn't been for a while. I personally can't thank you enough. All my listeners, if you do nothing else, please go to her Instagram account, take that quiz, which will bring you down this amazing spiritual journey. You can just sit with it and you'll grow so much from it.
It's so great to hear that.
Yeah.
that it transformed and led to the steps. But I think that's ultimately what it is. You nailed it, because it's about self-inquiry and learning more about ourselves. And that's why a lot of the work that I do is a presentation to help you get more clear and aligned with who you are based on the questions we ask ourselves. It's a quiz. You ask yourself questions. But also, even with all the books, I always end each chapter or section with a journal question or a mantra, because reflection, and I think a lot of us have seen this over the past year, when we couldn't go out in the world, we were like, okay, I can keep myself distracted, or I can really go inward into my own heart, and I can really reflect. And those that have done that and taken that opportunity, I have seen transformation and miracles. I have seen new businesses start. I have seen books that have been in people's hearts for decades are being written and now getting published. It's like an awakening. It's a rekindled of relationships, or even a parting of relationships, moving across country. It's like we're discovering, whoa, we want to live our life now, and we matter, and we're taking the steps to really activate who we want to be in this world. And it's such a profound experience. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, you really begin to realize we are here on this beautiful planet for a hot minute. We need to enjoy every day. And it's such a cliche to say, well, wake up and pretend, like today's your last day. And it's like, no, every moment. Like, what if you don't get one more moment? And this last year, like we've spoken about earlier, really has brought that to light to me for blessings, being close with family that maybe I haven't been. I was in an interview the other day and my mom popped in, and I was like, okay, well, everything stops because mom popped in, because I didn't have that for a trillion years. It's those beautiful moments that are the blessings. If we can see that light, especially out of this last year, then we have so much to live for and can do for this beautiful planet and for one another, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like an awakening within our heart. It's almost like Spirit's been knocking, the non-physical or our higher selves, or, your higher power. It's like, knock, knock. There's more to life. There's more to you. I saw this video at the beginning of COVID when it happened, and it was really put together nicely. And I think I shared it because Facebook reminded me recently, your post from 1 year ago. And it was like a letter. It said, "Dear humanity, here's why I came." And it's a perspective. It was a very nicely put together, production, lots of montages and stuff. From a spiritual perspective, COVID coming in and saying you guys were too distracted. You weren't even looking at each other. You were always on your phones. You were always, just not present when you were in each other's experience. You didn't appreciate the earth. And even just looking at where we are a year later or a little bit longer later, the profound awareness we have of other people, the proximity, I check in on my neighbors, and I have a relationship with my neighbors now, never did before, little things like that. And so much gratitude just sitting on the couch with my parents. Before it was just like okay, gotta get to the next thing. So I think there's been a shift that can help all of us. And looking at the silver lining has been one of the greatest gifts I've done. I look at my depression, my hitting rock bottom, my anxiety attacks through the last book tour. Everything has this, if you want to call it a silver lining, or a profound opportunity for us to awaken more into who we really are and what's possible for us as humans.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a beautiful way of switching that mindset to help listeners to hear, like, when you're in those moments, it's, why is this happening for me? That is something important, just to shift that one moment. Because like you, I've had such debilitating anxiety over the years. And I have learned and looked at now people that have come into my life that I've been able to share my experiences to help them and pay that forward. So it was, what was once a dark time is now turning into light because I'm able to share that with someone else. And so Shannon, if you could go back 10 years and you could have 10 seconds with yourself, what would you say to Shannon?
Oh my gosh. What a good question. Well, what's really funny is I actually do this exercise that's called Visit Your Future Self. And about 10 years ago, I was in such a dark hole, so sad, so just couldn't even get past my own self, hated myself and hated life. And I visited my future self, the one who is actually living the life that I envisioned. And she was happy. She was connected to herself. She was not racing to the next thing. She was present in life and fulfilled, and truly an example of what's possible when you choose love instead of fear. I visited her, and she had a message for me, and she said, keep going. You will get this. And so I find that if I were to go back now, I would say the exact same message. Like, you have no idea how amazing it's going to be, and you are not off track at all. Like, you are exactly where you're supposed to be, because without that experience, I would not be able to be here. Without that detrimental kind of, I thought, off track, life is not worth living moments, there's no way I could be in this place of having the books and being it. To your point, I made a commitment to myself. I'm going to be honest, and I'm not going to hold back. In each book, I get a little bit more honest. I know when I was writing Joy Seeker, I committed to being a little bit more into the spiritual space because I've always had a very strong spiritual connection, but I was still a little bit worried to mention angels or guides or, any crystals, anything like that. And so I gave myself permission to just go there. And then with this next book, oh my goodness, I can't wait for everyone to get their hands on it. It is the most authentic Shannon book ever in the world. And it's one of those where I just, after everything we've been through, I realized it's about unapologetic. You just have to be you. And just before, there was always a little worry of what will people think, but I have to say what I need to say. But you're still protected, kind of your writing behind the book. Mm-hmm. But now it's really, there's no separation anymore. And that's what I think you see, in the podcast and the blogs and everything. It's just, you get what you see. And I think that's what we all owe each other, to show more of our real self to each other. And, I was on like a date the other day, and the person was like, you talk too much, you think too much, you are asking me too many questions. And I was like, this is how I enjoy people. Like, I'm trying to get to know you. And it was so odd because everything about me drove this person bat crazy. They were like, I want nothing to do with this woman. They didn't like that I had a website. They didn't care that I was an author.
I mean, did they not know who they were going out on the date with is what I want to know. Like, how?
Yeah, that's basically it. Like, I don't know. And they didn't like dogs, big red flag.
Oh my God.
So it was one of those things where I was like, you're not everyone's cup of tea. And all I kept hearing throughout the date was like, you're too much. And it just really reminded me, like, I didn't take it personal. I just thought, man, like, I'm being more authentic to me than I've ever been. And this person is like not having it. And I'm going to go find the people who want it, because that's all. I want to align with the people who appreciate me. And that's what we should all do. Don't spend time on the people who don't understand you, because that's what it's about. There's contrast, there's this beautiful, everyone can find their own place, but we have to be committed to being true in our place. Cause I could have easily hid myself and, shied away and pretended I'm someone else, but I spent decades doing that. Like no more,
Right. And I know this amazing author. See if you recognize this statement, who wrote, your true tribe can't show up until you do. That would be you.
I know. And I love that quote. I use it all the time. And I was like repeating my own mantra while I was sitting there.
It's so true.
No, that's a good one though. Truly, we can't, I say this often too, your true tribe can't show up until you do. And I find when we go on spiritual journeys, I'm so glad you brought that up because this is one of the biggest hindrance that happened to me, probably for you. We start to awaken more to, oh my gosh, this is who I really am. And those walls that we had almost like an onion that had buried behind us start to fall away. And sometimes the people closest to us, they don't recognize the new, happier, healthier, smarter, more aligned you. And so there can be some feedback and pushback. And I got that every time I've had a spiritual awakening, the people I surrounded myself with closest, mostly to the most part, besides like maybe my immediate family, there was pushback like, you're growing too fast. They're not saying that, but whether I present new ideas or I find that we try to cling on. But what we have to do is let ourselves grow because as you do, the right tribe. So as an example, I had a best friend for many, many years. And when I started writing self-help, it was really difficult for her. She wasn't into self-help. She thought I was being fake. She's like, I don't know why you're writing blogs. Why are you trying to tell people to be happy? Like, I just don't get it. And we had kind of a falling out, stopped talking. And it was the best thing I did because I started to meet more like-minded people, authors who were dedicated to their dreams, people like you who are living their truth, having podcasts, supporting other people. And it was such a beautiful experience. And then lo and behold, 9 years later, she reached out again and I said, how are you? And I looked on her social media and she was posting positive quotes and reading books like The Secret and things she used to make fun of me for, she was now into. And that really reminded me to let people be where they are as they are. You can't control other people. You can only focus on your own path. Don't ever limit your growth based on people around you who aren't ready to grow at that time.
Amen. It's so true. And that's something that I find I have to remind myself every day because sometimes you get so excited on your journey and on things, the breakthroughs and the transformations that you're trying to pull people along. You're like, but look at this rainbow. How do you not see this? Right.
Totally.
And you're like, but then you're like, oh yeah. Like, and I catch myself like being here. This is the first time I've lived near my family in 20 some years. And I have done this when I first got here with my mom. Like, I'd be like, did you read this book? Do you have this crystal? And she was like, well, hold on a minute. Like, I need to catch up. And now, now that I've been here for however long, almost a year and a half later, the other night she called me and I was busy doing work and she goes, I just put out all my crystals. And I literally just stopped. It was like she called and said she won the lottery. I was like, amazing. Mom, oh my gosh. I said, I'm still working. She goes, it's the full moon. She goes, it's the super pink moon. And I was like, oh my God, like tears in my eyes. I'm like,
brilliant.
Wow. So I'm like, thanks, Mom. I'm going to go put out my crystals. It's so important to remember you can sprinkle and you can put stuff out and then just allow what someone's willing to have in that moment is great. And what they're not, that's okay. It's okay for people to kind of fade out of your movie for a little bit and maybe they'll return and maybe they won't. And it's okay. We've all had this happen to us. And, we think like, oh, sometimes it's sad to lose friends. But then, like you're saying, you turn the corner and you open a door and Sesame Street is at your door.
Oh, right.
Which is so amazing. I do have this question because you are the multiple best-selling author, my dear. What is your secret special sauce? I know there are people like me who I'm like the quiet writer who doesn't really say she's doing anything. What have you done? Because you really have just created such an amazing space for yourself and your writing is just so on point and authentic. What is that special sauce?
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate that. And, it's interesting because I have a lot of author friends and I'm in masterminds with authors and I coach authors as well who are wanting to write their books. And I don't know if I look at it as secret sauce as much as authenticity in the sense that I commit first and foremost to writing for me because it's my joy. And I find so many people when they're going to write or do the work that they're doing it for other people and they write their books. Like I have a friend who basically said, I want to know, and she went to her team of agents and everyone and said, what book does the world need? I want to be, a bestseller. I want to be the most mainstream recognized author, which is great. That's her process. Everyone has a process. But for me, I write about what I need to learn and then I heal. And because I heal and I truly commit to my own transformation, that's the greatest gift I can give to others because it's an authentic place of I'm not trying to change you. I'm trying to just share my journey. And I know that it's interesting when I say that because there's different process for everyone. But for me, and I find the writers that write the best, I always had visions like, yes, it'd be great to be a bestseller and I want to have a book turn into a movie one day. And, I have dreams, but I find a lot of people, whether you're an entrepreneur or growing your own coaching business or an author, we focus so much on the external and we focus so much on how can I get there? What can I do? Oh, I'm going to, buy PR to help and that's all great. But if you're not aligned on the inside first, then all that is built on sand and it's a metropolis. It's like Rome that will fall. Mm-hmm. And so from the very first day, I set out to be 100% aligned with my inner world and then create from there, because I believe our outside world is a reflection of our internal state, which is actually a statement from A Course in Miracles. So for me, I set out to heal myself so I can then be of highest service to others, because being of service to myself is service to the world. So it's not selfish at all. And I think at some point I thought it was. So yeah, I don't know if it's a secret sauce as much as a dedication to my craft I am such a personal growth. I feel like I'm here to grow as a person. And in turn, I will commit to being honest with you, world. Thank you for showing up and reading my books, because together we can move forward,
Absolutely. And change the vibration and lift the world. So if there were 3 pieces of advice that a budding author was coming to you and you're like, okay, I only have a minute, you're in a coffee shop and you're just going to give them 3 pieces of advice, what would that be?
Well, I've said a couple that really resonate today. I also have a new deck that comes out this November, and I have the deck here in my hand just as a production deck. So I want to pull one of those because I find that these are my token advices. But the one that really comes to mind first and foremost is we learn the way on the way. And I share this because so often we try so hard to get ahead, or we don't take action because we don't know which step to take. Wherever you are in your journey, take that one step. Right? If you feel guided to take that quiz online or listen to this podcast or download a book or call a friend, what it really means, we learn the way on the way. What that really means is listen to your gut instinct and your intuition, and you trust yourself. Take that step, because action is the only way we can move through fear. Action is the only way we can really get clear about what works and what doesn't work. So I think that's very, very powerful. Another one that I say often is the how is in the now. And so taking steps right now to really honor, we get so paralyzed by how's it going to work out? Or what if it doesn't work out? Or, oh, I don't know how to start my own business. Or how do you start a podcast? Well, take one step. What can you do right now? And so I just pulled a card as we were talking. I know you can't see the beautiful image here, but it's a woman who is breaching, like almost kind of like a yoga pose, looking out, and she has Sedona Red, gorgeous canyon behind her, and she's surrounded by gold crystal. It's actually citrine, but the way the sun's hitting it, it looks like gold. And citrine's a very powerful crystal, as you know, that helps kind of dispute negative energy. And it says your purpose is personal expansion. How can you be more intentional with your choices and live with more purpose? And this is from Unshakable Inner Peace, which comes out this November. And the reason I am pulling that is because I truly feel that if we ever get off track or feel off in life, we just return to, I am here to expand. It is my purpose. So if you feel like you're not expanding because you're staying in the relationship that has an expiration date, or you're in the career that really does not bring you joy and you're afraid to ask yourself, what is it I really want? Or you're sitting in the home that you thought you wanted and it does not feel joyful, where can you give yourself permission to expand? And those other 2, the how is in the now, and we learn the way on the way, give you the step-by-step force forward.
Wow. Okay, I'm ready to write. I'm ready.
Yep.
It is. What was so crazy as you were describing it, and this is something, honestly, listeners, Shannon does not know this. The past 9 years, I've been living in Arizona, and I came to Florida just before everything transitioned. I shouldn't say that. I was guided here.
Wow.
And there was a blessing because I became caretaking for my granddad and helping him transition and being here with my mom. That was beautiful. I cannot wait to get your new deck. Like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so exciting. Oh my gosh. So Shannon, we are at the time in the show where I asked that one question. And I'm wondering, Shannon, if there's one thing that no one knows about you, what could you share with us?
That's a good question. One thing that no one knows about me. Well, I guess it would be, I kind of shared it with you earlier, but I've just gone through yet another spiritual awakening just within the past 6 to 9 months. And what it has led to is a deeper awareness of self and a deeper connection to all of life and all of humanity. And radical, profound shifts have happened as a result of that. So, for example, I was always looking to what's next. Where am I going next as far as career, as far as where do I really want to move and settle down? I always had goals and dreams. And now I'm living so much in the present that I'm allowing the universe to bring me what is for the highest good of all involved. And I no longer grasp or manipulate or try to control. And this way of living has brought nothing but miracles into my life. The only people that know are my current family, but I just put a down payment on the most amazing loft, like my dream loft here in Oregon. And I was always like, I'm leaving Oregon. I don't want to be in Oregon. I'm moving. But that came about by me allowing myself to say, no, this is where I belong. So I move in we close in 30 days.
Congratulations. This is so exciting. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. And it's like so beautiful because it's like a loft. It's my style and it's just so exciting. So there's a little bit in there, but yeah, it's big dreams coming true in ways that I never even knew were dreams for myself. Let's say that.
That is so beautiful. Shannon, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today, for honoring us with your incredible energies, insights, and knowledge. This has been a wonderful experience for me, and I know that my listeners are so going to just enjoy the show so much.
Oh, it's been so great to be here with you. Thank you for all that you're doing, and I'm really excited to keep moving forward and sharing our joy.
Well, I know our listeners are going to want to be right by your side, as am I, through your next venture, and we can't wait for the next book and for the Oracle cards. Again, those are out this November. For our listeners, where, Shannon, is the best place that they can go to find you, stalk you, reach out, and buy everything from you?
Yeah, well, you can, of course, all the books are available on my website or through just Shannon Kaiser through any book online retailer. My website is playwiththeworld.com or shannonkaiser.com. And that's also where you can go to get the quiz, the Discover Your True Self quiz. And on social media, Instagram and Facebook, it's Shannon Kaiser Writes, WRITES, as my author page. And I'm always sharing positive messages and joy. My whole commitment with all of what I put out online is to have a safe place for you to feel seen and heard and reflect on your own life to move you forward.
And I am in a testament that it actually is true.
Yay.
Shannon, thank you again. This has been an amazing show. I'm so honored. And as we say, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Empowered Within with Jennifer Pilates. Your feedback is important. It helps me to connect with you and gives me insight into who you are and what you're enjoying about the show. For today's show notes and discount codes from today's sponsors, head over to jenniferpilates.com. Until next time, may you live an empowered life from within.